here we are. And Eric, I'll kind of let you guide us through what we've got to do.
Certainly. So first thing on the agenda is for you to call us to order.
Yeah. Well, and so we'll call the meeting to order, and a little late, but better late than never. And we have a quorum.
Yes, I think we have full attendance.
That's great. That's like so important. What's the next step? Is it public comments? So are there any public comments? Any public comments? Twice? Any public comments? 3 times? I would be happily surprised if sometime there were public comments, but so far in all the years of doing this, I can only remember one time that occurred. But so after public comments, do we have minutes of a previous meeting?
That we do.
Okay, so if people have had a chance to review the minutes, it would be helpful to have a motion to approve.
Adrian or Brenda or Allison?
Hi, this is Brenda. I make a motion to approve.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second. It's Adrian.
Thank you very much. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Abstaining? Okay, so the minutes are approved. Now we get into the main event, I suppose. Is that right?
Yep.
There we are.
So, as most of you remember, we do kick off our budget process in April. As far as the committee is concerned, that really kicks off in May. And we start the first meeting going through revenues, targets, and staffing. Our second meeting of the committee, which is scheduled for early June, we go through expenses and ideally present a consolidated budget, depending on the year. Sometimes we've needed a third meeting to get through everything. Either way, at the end of that early June meeting, the committee will make a recommendation to the board for their adoption of a budget and targets for the following year. So with that, plan is for today to kick off with budget and targets and focus on revenue targets. Then we'll move into revenues and talk about staffing. And if there are any questions, feel free to hop in along the way. So targets, these are our programmatic, organizational, and investments targets. That's what we're going to focus most of today on. Then I'll shift to revenues and staffing. So just to kind of set context for where we are, you can see our targets over the years. So for our first 13 fiscal years of operation, we had cumulative targets of about 64,000 projects. We ended up doing about 63,700. So just about 1.5% off from that target, which is great. We had a $2.5 billion capital deployment target cumulatively, which we exceeded and did $2.7 billion. We said that our target was 639 megawatts of capacity installed, and we blew that out of the water doing 661 megawatts. So for context, our last full fiscal year was FY24. We set a target of 1,868 projects. We did 2,100 about. We had a target of $110 million of capital deployment. We did 426 million, thanks to some fuel cells in there. and we had a 27.5 megawatt capacity target, and we did 130 megawatts. 2024 was a great year. FY25, we're 3/4 of the way through the year. Sorry.
Eric, I'm sorry to interrupt. Because I can't see,
Yes,
is it okay to pop in with a question?
100%.
I think those stats are really remarkable. Is there some sort of roadshow that the team is doing to promote the success of fiscal year 24?
It's all in our annual comp plan, or not comp plan. I'm sorry, our annual comprehensive financial report, our ACFR. We didn't. We will obviously make sure that we speak to these. But FY24, it's almost been a year since that was over, and I mean we have spoken to it wherever we could. So, but
Congratulations to the team. Amazing.
thank you. FY25, we had ambitious targets, but we recognize and we are seeing it's been a bit of a slower year, and that FY24 was much more of a banner year than 25. So 3/4 of the way through 25, we had a target for the full year of about 2,400 projects. We've done about 1,400. That gap there is really driven by macroeconomic factors in Smarty in terms of the number of projects that we are just not. We're not having the uptake. People aren't spending as much on home improvement as they once were. And we're also having slower than expected deployment rates on energy storage. And the same ideas are really driving around capital deployment, where we had a target of 163 million and we've done 90 million so far. So yeah, we've an ambitious target. We've made good progress to it. I think there's still some more transactions that will come in down the line that will get us much closer to the way there. And so I think we'll come close to that target. I'm hoping. In terms of capacity, we've done 18.9 megawatts of clean energy out of a 19.9 megawatt target. You'll see that over the years, our capacity targets and our number of projects targets have decreased, and that's just purely due to the fact that we aren't running such a volumetric program like arson as we once were. So all of that is for context.
Eric, can I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just had a question. It might be overall, but I guess I'm just gonna say, like, this quarter for the economy has been a real roller coaster, and with a lot of uncertainty looking forward in terms of where people might be investing. So I'm just wondering if it has, how much do you think that's going to impact us, or do you see it yet in the numbers?
I think there is a lot of uncertainty, and I mean, we all know that uncertainty leads to a lack of decision or a lack of action in many cases. And I think we certainly are seeing that on the residential side, in terms of Smarty, and probably to a lesser degree on ESS. But do I think that we'll continue to see that? Potentially. I think that depending how things go economically, we could continue to see that and slower growth. I think we're aiming to do things in ways to combat that. That I think we're targeting some of our marketing and outreach with that in mind. And we're hopeful that that's not the case. I think there's also another level of uncertainty that certainly impacts us from a federal policy perspective in terms of tax policy, as well as our greenhouse gas reduction funds in a certain
Well, the other thing that just occurred to me is stuff like solar panels, which the way I understood it, almost all come from China, will cost like what, 2.5 times more than I mean their total price will be 2.5 times more than it is now. Is that right?
One and a half.
1.5. But yeah,
One
well,
and a half.
I guess it depends on
Well,
which
it's
day.
154% tariff or something. So that would be the price plus the price again plus half
Yeah.
of the price again.
Hmm.
If that's the right number, but they'll they'll be much more expensive in any event. So
Sure.
it would interrupt totally the idea if you go solar that you'd be able to reduce your electric bill substantially because the cost of the panels will be ridiculous.
I mean, I think the tariffs certainly aren't helping and do create an added layer of uncertainty here. So, I mean, I think it does threaten some of the economics of some of our projects.
Now, is there like there was supposed to be a solar panel uh producer established in Buffalo or something. Did that ever happen?
I know, I don't know if that's fully up and running. I know that I thought Buffalo was getting confused which project was where. I knew that there were some in North Georgia from a solar
Hmm.
panel manufacturing. I know Buffalo was, um, I believe, solar panels, but also batteries.
Oh, all right.
Um, eh, I don't know how much domestic capacity there really is at this moment in terms of panel production.
Well, I suppose, and I apologize because I suppose those really trying to project the future at this current moment is a total it's just a total guessing game. So I don't mean to interrupt the numbers. I guess all we can do is go with what we know until it changes.
That's precisely what we've done here. It's We're going off of our best estimation with what we know now, and recognizing, I think they're recognizing that this will certainly change, and that what we're, yeah, I think that these numbers will continue to, the market is going to evolve, and we're going to be setting these targets now for a market that's going to be evolving um, over the next year. And so I think this is directionally where we would like to be, recognizing that there are most likely going to be some obstacles that come along. But then again, every year there are. I think it's just this year there's more uncertainty around what those obstacles are.
Oh, I mean, I think you and Bert are gonna be staring at the computer screen quite a bit. So drinking coffee and muttering to yourself.
uh, Probably. But we do that anyway, John. So,
Yeah.
uh,
Anyways, I'm
so
sorry. Go ahead, please.
no worries, no worries. So with that, let's continue on. We'll go through this programmatically and focus on at least at our current version or current from our current vantage point where we're setting targets. Um, so CPACE, we're looking at based off of our current pipeline and things that we hopefully will get closed and what's currently developing. We're aiming for 24 projects for $42 million. We don't have a capacity installed number on there because we have stopped setting capacity installed targets on CPACE as to not disincentivize efficiency. But this is really representative of our current pipeline. It's a great opportunity for us to commit over $10 million of our own balance sheet towards this. We're planning on using, you'll see I've highlighted which federal funds we're planning on committing where. We're looking at committing at least 2.5 million towards CPACE here. We believe that we have that amount of federally compliant CPACE deals in the pipeline, and that's consistent with our NCIF work plan. Just a reminder that the NCIF funds are currently frozen pending ongoing litigation. So we do have strategies and capital that we can access for these, and we will be figuring out which pool of capital we use as developments occur and as we go throughout the year. So yeah, 24 projects on CPACE, an increase year on year. But yeah, we have a really robust pipeline. We're also looking at the private sector where most of the new construction deals happen. Where there are a handful of those in there, and they're the big driver of the capital deployed number. And that's simply because those new construction deals typically are larger. That's why the private sector likes them. Looking at our marketplace assistance program, we have a robust pipeline there and one that's still developing. We're looking to do 20 projects. So 6 of those coming from the municipal channel, 8 state projects, and 6 on affordable multifamily, where we've been spending a lot of time over the past year building that pipeline, aiming to get our first projects through. So $20 million, 20 projects, $28 million of capital deployment, at least 2.1 million from the Green Bank's balance sheet. There might be opportunities for us to commit more of our funds there. It just depends on, we don't have an owner identified for the municipal and the state projects. A lot of this is going to depend on who ends up buying them and do they want our debt into that structure. Overall, for the NCIF, we have said we would commit 12.5 million towards the MAP program. So we're looking, 2.1 of that would be over the next year, but there could be a much greater number that would accelerate that deployment. We're looking at doing 14.7 megawatts there. On our PPA, so that don't go through the MAP program, we're looking at doing 11 projects, $12 million of capital deployment, of which 5.1 is Green Bank capital, 10 megawatts. So really robust. These are, you'll recognize the names in there from facilities that the board has approved in terms of Skyview and Down East. And these numbers really come from working with them and the pipelines they've developed and what they're bringing. You'll see on here we have the tariff-backed loan with no numbers against it, and that's just because it's something that we offer as kind of a backup to CPACE. We would much rather lend through CPACE, but if we can't make that structure work, the tariff-backed loan is a structure that we offer to get programs across the line. Being that CPACE is our preferred structure, we're pushing projects there, and if they fall out of that, that is an option for where they would end up. It's there for tracking purposes, but we aren't setting a target against it. SBEA, the Small Business Energy Advantage, and its sibling program, the Business Energy Advantage, where we capitalize the program for Eversource. We're looking at doing 436 loans for 14.49 million, of which the Green Bank would take about 3 million onto their balance sheet. And then multifamily and Lime, as I've said in previous years, we're not really pushing the multifamily pre-dev loan. Lime is currently being offered by Capital for Change, and we capitalize Capital for Change's Lime facility. As you may remember from the April board meeting, we just extended the term on that. We aren't aware of any deals that are coming to close next year, but I know that Mackie is actively working with them on that. But that is an item that is out there that it is an offering of the Green Bank.
Eric?
our efforts from a multifamily perspective are through the MAP channel. Sorry.
Eric, it's Bert. On online, as part of the request to extend, they did say that they had a pipeline of transactions for this fiscal year and next fiscal year, but they haven't submitted a draw request as of yet. But they do have a pipeline. They did say. Just wanted to note that for the record.
Any question on the financing programs? All right, with that, move over to incentive programs and environmental infrastructure. So incentive programs on ESS residential, our goal again is for 500 projects, $15 million in capital deployment, 3.7 of which would be Green Bank capital. We are aiming to commit about 440,000 from Solar for All there to do 5 megawatts of nameplate capacity installed. On the CNI side, we're aiming for 5 projects, again, $15 million, 2.5 of which would be Green Bank incentives that would be recovered through the rate making process at Eversource for 10 megawatts of nameplate. We were, again, the commercial side of ESS is more robust and much faster moving than the residential side, but and we're aiming to, we're at a moment of inflection where we're closely watching, as we always are, but closely watching the residential market and trying to figure out are there things that we can do to help accelerate that adoption of batteries to help Pura meet its targets, or help meet the targets that Pura assigned us. On the Smarty loan, we're bringing our targets down somewhat to be more in line with kind of the contraction on home improvement spending that we've seen. We are aiming to do 915 projects, down from 1,200 plus this year was our target, where this year we're at about 700 so far. We're looking to do $23 million, and we're looking to put to work $5 million from the NCIF, which I guess would be Green Bank capital committed, because we would be looking to do that through linked deposits, and really aim that towards low to moderate income communities, aiming to do 2 megawatts of capacity installed. We really believe that the opportunity here is really with solar through our new partnership with SunGage. We're still working on the timing and the launch of that, but that we remain positive that that will be that will really help the program grow and drive costs down for solar adoption in the state in general. So overall, for the incentive programs, we're aiming to do about 17 megawatts of installed capacity, 1,400 projects, $53 million of economic activity for the green economy in Connecticut.
Eric, excuse me, this is John. I'm just wondering, could you remind me of what SunGage, what their function is in all this?
Certainly. So SunGage is joining the Smarty program as a new lender, where they're going to be exclusively focused on solar and storage. And by coming through the Smarty program, they will be offering functionality to installers that installers have long asked for, in terms of instant pre-approval, the ability to put contracts in front of homeowners in a much quicker manner. But also they're coming in and they're going to have lower dealer fees than what's oftentimes seen in the market. That you'll see dealer fees for contractor offered financing sometimes being upward of 30%. And so it's a no-brainer. That's going to drive the cost of the project up because somebody's got to eat that. Usually
So
we'll
do
trickle
they
most of that to consumers.
do they go out and seek their own? Do they promote their own program or not?
They have contractors that they already work with. It's not 100% of them are in Smarty right now, but the vast majority of them are Smarty contractors, from what I understand. And so they're going to be effectively our contractors who are already familiar with Smarty, and many of whom are already familiar with SunGage, are going to be able to access better rates through the Smarty and an easier process through Smarty.
Yeah, I guess that sounds great.
Yeah, that's the intention. Other questions on the incentive programs? So moving on to environmental infrastructure, we have a line in here for CPACE resilience. We aren't setting a target specifically around CPACE resilience, but we're calling it out here just so that we can say, here's what we've done with environmental infrastructure and this breakout of our targets. And same thing for Smarty. We do have a target there because we are separately monitoring this channel and the growth of it, as we want to make sure that we are encouraging people to make their homes more resilient. We have set a target around it. The capital solutions, which is where Lee and her team spend the majority of their time, is where we're putting the target for you to approve. We're aiming to do 2 projects, 5 million in capital deployed, 2.5 million coming from our balance sheet. We have previously stated that we would do 5 million from the NCIF there. So we, depending on the projects, depending on standards set out by the Coalition for Green Capital, who would need to approve this as somewhat aprogrammatic from their view, we may or may not access that NCIF money if it is available. But the big takeaway for you guys is 2 projects, $5 million. Is what we're aiming to do there, which would be double what our target is for this year, which we expect to knock out of the park later this month. Questions there?
Yeah, Adrian here. I wish you would give us some examples of what these projects might look like. What are some of the projects that are under discussion?
So I know that Lee and her team have a strong focus on waste and recycling at the moment. In terms of food waste diversion. And Bert and Lee, I'm happy to talk more, or invite you to give more details on what is due to come to deployment later this month, if you feel that this is an appropriate forum for that. I don't want to get ahead of myself.
This is Lee. I think just to give an example, there's a very broad need for solutions to help the state address its waste management problems, as many people on this call know. And the transaction that we hope to bring forward to the deployment committee in 2 weeks is really the first pipeline of projects that are meant to help, whether on the logistics or pre-processing or processing infrastructure side. In this particular case, an equipment loan for a food waste upcycling business. So don't want to get ahead of the deployment committee and process, and we're still working to finalize the terms of that loan, but it fits an origination strategy that we're looking to implement, having brought to the board our waste and recycling primer as part of the Green Bank's upward learning curve on environmental infrastructure per the Act 21115. So we'll have a really clear through line to how We've been thoughtfully chipping away at strategy over time, and how this first transaction is really emblematic of that, and the first in a series of things that help us to deliver on the strategy that we've been trying to keep the board, high line of sight and visibility into.
Cool.
Thank you. Thanks, Lee.
Any other questions on environmental infrastructure? All right, so moving on to investment, innovation, and organizational targets. So investment, this in most years, including this year, but most other years, this has just been, hey, here's what we're doing programmatically to support the programs in terms of capitalization activity. And this has evolved into here's what we're doing through capital solutions. Here's what we're doing through innovation, the innovation bucket, which is things that are more on the road to becoming programs than pure standalone. And then because we don't have another place for it at the moment, because it's still evolving, we have our Solar for All initiative in here. So Solar for All was a greenhouse gas reduction fund competition. It has, at the moment, is not frozen and doesn't. There are no signs of it being frozen at the EPA. So DEEP was the primary applicant in the state of Connecticut. There was a pot of about $43 million in change, if my memory serves correctly, of which DEEP is using some of that money for grants and for market education. The rest of it is coming to us for financing. Aside from $5 million, it's going to CHAFA for lending. So we're looking to launch a new low to moderate income focused solar initiative that's going to be focused both for single family and multifamily. So we're looking to get up a low income lease that will not be through us, at least according to the current plan. We're looking for a third party to really own that product and manage that initiative. And so we're aiming to do 18 projects through that, $600,000 in capital deployment. 100% will be from our balance sheet, and will be Solar for All money, 4 megawatts of capacity. We're looking to do 3 projects from a multifamily PPA perspective, about $1 million of capital deployment, all of which would be on our balance sheet in the Solar for All money. Still sorting through those details and what that's going to look like, but ideally that's 21 projects for $1.6 million. The next bucket is our innovation bucket, where the primary offering is our newly branded Fleet Electrification Accelerator. And this is where we have been appointed the electrification technical resource by PURA to help school districts electrify their fleets in accordance with the state targets. So LMI school districts need to hit that by, or LIDAC school districts by 2030, and everybody by 2035. We're hoping to get our first 2 cohorts through this next fiscal year. So our first cohort should be 2 to 3 school districts this summer to kind of help us learn what we're doing with our newly hired vendor. And then we're aiming for 3 to 5 additional for a total of 6 in the target, which should get us through the fiscal year. And then ideally we should start looking at larger numbers for next fiscal year. There's no
Hi,
capital.
excuse me, Eric.
Yes.
Hi, it's John. Did you say that the overall the target to totally complete this electrification of the fleet to be 10 years, 2035?
Yes, I believe so.
Do you say, and why will it take that long?
A lot of it has to do with the capital needs of school districts, how quickly they're able to replace their buses, the outfitting of bus depots, getting enough power to them. I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
I
it's
think
just
I think 10 years out is, yeah, I'll save my commentary for another place on that. I think it's a very reasonable estimate of how long it'll take.
oh, well, it's
I
more than
I would,
it's more than
but
comfortable for everybody doing the work. It
mhm,
seems a little too
mhm.
a
I,
little loose for me.
but I also think that by putting the focus on the LMI school districts first, having an earlier target there should, I really like that part of the policy. It allows them to kind of get ahead of the curve, ahead of the rush potentially. But I also think that by them going through it, they should be bringing others along with them as well. So
And a lot
recognizing
of
that
Yeah.
this
they're
is
going to be
being
the ones
driven
that need the
by,
most handholding. Sorry, Brian, go ahead.
I was gonna say, a lot of this is being pushed by a state mandate, and they're clearly going to not make the requirements to meet the goals of the state that are in statute. But we've been pushing to not change that policy goal, because then they'll just push back when they start doing the hard work. So I, I believe they are starting making some progress now, but we're not where we should be.
Thank you, Brian. Um, yeah, I mean, I guess if there's any way to uh, whatever the process is that we might need to move more quickly, and then whatever we can do to encourage the contractors. It just seems like that this is a relatively straightforward process. I mean, it's more complicated apparently than I knew, but when you look at the idea of like the trying to eliminate all carbon emissions by a date certain like 2050, and it would take 10 years just to do the school buses. Um, man, that's just a small slice of the pie. Like how on earth will we ever meet any targets to eliminate carbon at any date if it takes 10 years to just to do the school buses? Do you know what I mean? Is
I
I think that's reasonable, but I do think I think it's going to be a tipping point because the high upfront costs, and then obviously over time the maintenance costs will be less. Um, but I do think it's going to take some of those first few municipalities to figure it out, and then I think the progress is going to come quickly after that.
well, all right. I mean that would be great if there was a sort of like, as you say, a tipping point, and then acceleration based on an ease of doing it. That would be good. I'll count on you, Brian, to get that going in that way. Okay.
I'm on it.
there's no there's no trust to your set of hands you could have on it. So yeah, our plan is to get six school districts through this accelerator this year. There's no capital deployment with that because there's no investment with it. It's just purely helping them come up with a plan that would ideally lead to potential investment. So under the capital solutions bucket are more bespoke open RFP, which are where we've hung out our shingle and said, bring us your investments. You will see a line for transportation. There are 3 to 4 transactions that will be going to the board, that the board I know has been briefed on previously. These are expected to be, or we're hoping that you will approve them in June. Assuming that they are approved in June, We're expecting that they would close next fiscal year, so those are in there for $20 million. We have our clean energy and DER bucket. We're expecting 4 transactions, at least for $30 million of capital deployment, 20 million from our balance sheet, 15 million of which would be NCIF money, potentially. And then there's the environmental infrastructure capital solutions from above. So that's just kind of aggregating all things capital solutions in one place. So overall, as an organization, we're setting a target of 2,000 projects, $200 million of capital deployment, committing $66 million from our own balance sheet, and ideally committing at least $40 million of NCIF money and 2.1 million of solar for all money for 45.9 megawatts of capacity. Any questions on targets before I shift over to revenues?
I have one last one. Is the price per megawatt going down or not?
We don't have as clear insights as we once did when we were on as the administrators of the RSIP. But from everything I've seen, we have continued to see price per megawatt continue to decline. Will it continue to do that? That's the great unknown.
Yeah, right. Well, that's where all of the uncertainties come in. But it's good to know that. I mean, the basic premise of the bank is if you get these things going, that then the marketplace begins to drive the cost down based on scale and all of those good things. So if that's all working, that's good.
Knock on wood. Moving on to revenues, you'll see a significant rise in revenues, but it's not really what I want you to focus on. But let me walk through this. So year on year, we're projecting revenues at 159 million for next year versus a budget for this year of 77.9 million. I'll walk through each components, but I'll tell you, starting with the utility customer assessments. So what's coming from the Clean Energy Fund are 1 mil. That every year that decreases. This year we're actually forecasting a slight uptick in it by about $200,000, and that's just based over time. We've had larger than expected receipts, although declining. So this kind of translates into a weird rise year on year in terms of what we're budgeting, but I stand by Dan and Jane's methods for forecasting. We have on here our $5.2 million from Reggie, which is where we're capped out at on that. So that'll be flat. Interest income, we're seeing a $1.6 million increase year on year. And that's due to our deployment of more funds and investment prudently. And so more money is earning for us, and we're generating more interest. Similarly on capitalized interest, same thing. Grant income, so this small bucket of federal grants that's staying flat. Our state grants is decreasing, and that's just reflective of this one-time grant that we got from DECD, the Manufacturing Investment Fund, which we're continuing to administer. It just flows through us. You'll see this increase of 2.1 million on the Solar for All. My conviction level on that is much higher than the $93 million below that on the NCIF. The NCIF, as you'll recall, we are the subawardee with responsibility for New Hampshire and Puerto Rico, so their grants flow through us. Their grants total about $50 million. Ours is about 43. That so this is assuming that, hey, we get the legislation in, or I'm sorry, the litigation ends, everything is freed up. It comes to us, we hand out the $50 million to New Hampshire and Puerto Rico, and our piece we commit, and it all goes to that. Do I expect that's going to happen perfectly in that way, shape, and form? No, but we are doing this with a best case scenario in here. So, all right, in a perfect world, where this litigation ends, we are fairly robust in our conviction that we can get the money out the door, and committed. So.
And I would just add, Eric, I mean, it's kind of a double-edged sword. So if the money does move, we're really trying to position Puerto Rico and help them, enable them. We don't know what New Hampshire's going to do. We'd really love for her to deploy those funds as, was designed. If they do not take those funds, because of the lack of clarity or ambiguity in the market, or for whatever reasons, we believe that those funds will eventually come back to the Green Bank, which is the positive side of it. So we really like New Hampshire to use them, and if they don't, we think the way the system is currently set up, that those funds will come back to us.
So.
Thank you, Brian. Erica, I just had a suggestion that maybe if it would be great if we could work out like that, you had some sort of electronic pointer or something on a chart like this.
Here.
Because I'm
there
like
is a
trying to
function-
find where we are. Woo!
There was a functionality at one point on PowerPoint for that. If I could, here, I will. Can you see this? I don't think it's actually coming through, but
Yeah, I see it.
I don't know if anybody
Okay.
else is
Oh, you do
having
see it.
a problem following, but the numbers are small on my screen.
Okay, sorry about
That's
that.
a good idea. Good idea, John.
Rest assured, we have the same problem, John.
So moving on from the grant income, we have rec sales. It's declining year on year as it does every year. Our systems get older, they produce less, but we have been doing a very good job the past several years of achieving or slightly exceeding our targets on rec generation. So I stand by these numbers. So slight decline in general recs, a slight decline in our Shrek program. CPA's closing fees are flat. PPA income, LREC, UREC income, rental income, those were all items that we used to never talk about. Those were all in our subsidiaries. We never focused on them. Now that we've bought out our partners on the lease funds, these now roll up to the higher level. You can see them. They're pretty much, there's slight increases year on year. Those are really PPA income and rental income. Those increases year on year are based off of the escalators that are in those original leases and PPAs. So all positive there. One other item in terms of, it's not revenue, so I don't dare term it that way, as Dan corrected me earlier. But we are planning a Shrek securitization, so the sale of another bond for next fiscal year, which would be another influx of cash for about $20 million. So, questions on revenues? Cool. I don't know how to get this off laser pointer now. Here we go. So, staffing. So we're keeping our staffing vastly as it is. We're requesting 4 additional positions. So we have some open headcount, which you guys have previously approved that we'll either fill before the end of this fiscal year. If not, we would carry that over to next fiscal year. And some of the reasons for not filling that, they're varied. Some of it is we haven't found the right candidate. Some of it is, hey, we want to be able to fill this if it makes sense, but it doesn't make sense at the moment. And some of it is just, hey, it's taking us longer to get this done than we'd intended. So, but I'll focus really on the 4 additional positions, those at the bottom here, that we're asking for next year. The first is with regard to the Smarty loan. We're looking, our 6-year agreement with Inclusive Prosperity Capital is coming to an end. We're looking at what are we going to do with the program, and we after much reflection and analysis, we've made the decision that we want to bring that back in-house. We feel that we can do that by only adding 1 additional staff member. We think it's better managed in-house because we're the ones that are closest to the market. We have the infrastructure in place to really help that program grow, doing that with other areas where we're focused on growth, such as residential storage. So it really makes sense to us to bring this back in-house, so we wouldn't need an extra headcount to help with the customer service and the loan approval and all of that piece of it. We're looking to add an additional position on the investments team to support all of the other activity that we have going on across the organization. Then there are 2 additional positions on the environmental infrastructure team. The first of which would be focused on the waste and recycling pipeline that Lee mentioned previously, that they've really started to develop a pipeline and really see a lot of opportunity there. And I think this is a lot of opportunity for some early investment that would help generate additional interest revenue that would help fund our expansion into other areas of environmental infrastructure. At least that's the plan. So the idea would be to add a manager to really help grow that pipeline and bring deals out of that to the board. The second position, which we would look at adding halfway through the year, would be very water focused. And so these are opportunities like helping drive investment into stormwater authorities and helping Lee, I'm sure I'm not doing you a lick of justice with this, but so feel free to cut me off.
I can chime in, Eric. Yeah, I can just chime in. The focus of the second position will be nature-based solutions for climate adaptation and resilience. So there's plenty of water tucked into there, but we're really thinking about that position being in service to some of the emerging opportunities on climate adaptation and resilience, especially through that nature-based solutions focus. And we're still working on strategy there, but it's very much befitting our organizational policy priority into such things as Senate Bill 9, the Governor's Resilience Bill, and the concept of resiliency improvement districts, but a number of wraparound solutions that can help us to get to those same outcomes for benefiting communities and other stakeholders across the state. So more to say there, but we would imagine bringing that position on mid-year so as to have time to get the ball rolling on some of that initial kind of phase 1 origination work, and then to pull that strategy in responsibly, much like we're doing in the organic waste management space.
Cool. Any questions on those 2 positions?
I've got a question, sort of overall. When you talked about we're bringing that program back in house, does that include? Are there layoffs involved in that?
No, I believe that the Smarty staff that they have at IPC are going to shift to support other Smarty programs that are offered by IPC in other markets. So as John, I'm sure you remember, and Allison Adrian and Brenda, I don't think you guys were around for the sweeps. Maybe Brenda, maybe you were. Yeah. But one of the goals of IPC was to take the Smarty model and bring it to other markets. And it's taken a while, but they are in a bunch of other markets. They have programs in Indiana that's launching, or maybe that has launched. They've launched in a bunch of southwestern states. There are another couple that I know are coming on board, so I believe that their staff would be repurposed into those markets.
So would we continue like with the program in-house? Are we working on those, or or is that like a,
We're only going to focus on Connecticut.
okay? Yeah, because that was part of the whole thing about splitting them off. That the program itself probably couldn't survive unless it was multi-state.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, but at the time, that was when the bank was, hanging by a thread. So,
Mm-hmm.
I guess the other thing I just raised as a reminder, the tremendous need to consider diversity when in hiring. It just makes us a better organization if we reflect the world rather than just a segment of it.
Certainly. And John, you've made that point to me outside of these meetings previously, and we've made great strides this year, and it's something we're going to continue to work on and to track. So
Yeah, I know. I would haunt you on this, Eric, if it if it went astray, like Jacob Marley in the middle of the night. So yeah, I'm glad that that's there.
couple other things from our staffing plan that I want to highlight here. Uh, we're proposing a 1.5% promotion pool, which is in line with what we've done since I've been at the Green Bank. So 1.5% of the budget for promotions. 3% COLA, which is in line with the Bureau of Labor Statistics, or it's less than the Bureau of Labor Statistics wage inflation number and the Society for Human Resources Management's cost of employment increases year on year. And we're proposing a 5% merit. We are also at our committee meeting for January, we proposed a greenhouse gas reduction fund and some incentive compensation pool, where you guys were very supportive of that. I appreciate that. So we're including that in the budget. Should we actually get the funds unlocked and deployed? And as they get unlocked, we will continue to work on our plans and structure of that incentive compensation there. But that's also in the budget that we're proposing. Questions on staffing? All right, I think that's the end of the prepared material that I have for today.
So what do we need to do in terms of this now? Is there a resolution or?
There's no resolution until the next meeting when we'll go through expenses, and then it'll be a resolution for a recommendation to the budget to the board. But
Well, let me ask the committee members at this point. Is there anyone that anyone that would be uncomfortable with within the recommendation recommending what we've seen already? Does anybody have a problem with it? because I think I mean I think that you all continue to do just a remarkable job with this stuff, and uh, it's I think the board will be pleased, and I think that there's enough challenges in here to to have that there's it's not totally stretch goals, but they're good goals, and this is the heart of how the bank really makes progress is based on these goals and then coming up with the means to do it, which is what you all do so well. So I congratulate you, Eric, and whoever else was involved in this process. And who would be the people that were most intimately involved with this, Eric?
I would be remiss if I didn't thank Jane and Dan for all the hard work, and Sean for all their hard work putting together the revenues and the budget. Their big ask is yet to come with all the expenses, but there's a lot that goes into the forecasting of revenues that they do a phenomenal job with every year. In terms of the targets, Bert, Lee, Mackie, Sergio, Barbara Waters, myself, and then Brian Farnan keeps us all in check. So,
Well, that's the all-star team.
well, thank you, John, and thank you to the rest of the committee for your support.
So do we have anything else that we need to do today?
No, I mean, if there's anything that you guys would like to see in a consolidated budget or with regard to the expenses, please feel free to let me know. Or if there are questions on this that you want to walk through offline, I'm happy to do that.
Well, all right, then, does anyone have anything, any general comments or, I don't know, anything else for the good and welfare of the organization, as we say in a union meeting?
This is Allison. I'll just say thanks for having me on this committee. This was my first meeting for this committee, and great job. So thanks.
Well, thank you, Allison.
Well, again, I'm terribly sorry I was late, but this is it's a good job so far. So thank you. What do we do now? A motion to adjourn, Eric?
Yeah, motion to adjourn would do it.
Okay, since there's nothing else in the way of that, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
This is Allison. I can make that motion.
And a second?
I'll second Adrian speaking.
Okay, well, again, with thanks to all of you for hanging in and getting this done. The quorum is so important. But the motion is non-debatable, so all those in favor say aye.
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 And any opposed? I suppose you could stay here if you really would like to, but the meeting is now ended, so thank you.
Thanks.